we went live, Jeff Zrebeck also just broke this news along with I'm sure some other folks out there, but says the Ravens deal with cornerback Ronald Darby is a 1-year deal for $1.75 million base salary in addition to $1.5 million in incentives. Look, I mean, Marlon Humphrey is out, and it's a huge loss to the secondary, but I think that Darby was a good addition, and just adding more depth. And when Marlon comes back, he'll still be there, and I think I think we're going to be fine. I was just trying to say the sky isn't falling, people.
I don't think the sky is falling either. I think obviously you never want to see injury or surgery or anything along those lines happen with the Ravens, because it's kind of an ongoing thing, and it seems like it happens every year to big name players, and it's tough for the team to stay healthy at times. But I would rather this happen to Marlon Humphrey if I'm a Ravens fan now than later in the season when you're in the bulk. They face their first 3 weeks, and it seems like he could potentially miss the first 3 weeks. We really don't know what the timetable is going to be, but hypothetically, if he does miss the first 3 weeks of the season, they play 2 rookie quarterbacks. You got Stroud, you got Richardson, you got the Texans, the Colts. The big one is going to be week 2 against the Bengals, Joe Burrow. Who's going to cover Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd, all those guys. So losing Marlon for potentially 3 weeks to start the regular season, I don't think that's the end of the world. This was a lingering issue. It wasn't something that happened specifically in practice. John Harbaugh talked about that, and it's something their guys took a look. I mean, their doctors took a look at, men and women, and just looked and saw and said, you know what, like, this needs to be taken care of now, better now than later. So they got it taken care of. He got the surgery. I did see him post a story. There was it wasn't like of him, but he had like a crutch in a car, and like, so it looks like that did officially happen yesterday, the surgery. Pepe Williams being out until potentially October or later getting surgery, that's 2 blows to the cornerbacks room. And then you had Rocky Sin out. You had Jalen Armour-Davis out. He returned to the field. And Arthur Millette has been out as well. So this is a room right now that is kind of taking a few blows early on. And we're still in training camp, which is a good thing. So you can kind of figure out what that room is going to look like when the season actually begins. But right now, there are some questions with depth. John Harbaugh knows that. Eric DeCosta knows that. That's why they went out and got Darby. He's a PG County native. He was a high school teammate played at the same high school, or was a high school teammate of Tavon Young's. So that's a cool tie, cool Ravens tie as well. Shout out to Tavon Young, Temple guy. But with that being said, Darby is a guy that played in 5 games last season, tore his ACL, but he's a good veteran, and if you can bring him in on a cheap 1-year deal, I think that's big for the Ravens. I think that he could be an asset for this team on a 1-year deal, depending on what happens, and a good veteran to add depth, because that is the biggest concern for the Ravens right now. I actually did get to watch Ronald Darby with the Eagles for a few seasons, and I mean, he's a decent corner. I mean, he's never been a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro, but he was a decent corner at times for the Eagles. So I think that's what he can be for the Ravens. They don't need him to be the number 1. They don't even need him to be the number 2 when this is a fully healthy room. But another veteran is never a bad thing to add to a cornerback's room that has struggled with depth because of injuries in training camp early on.
The one thing is trusting your knee when you have to play a position like corner. You got to be comfortable with all the moves, and you might not be exactly where you want to be. And that's another thing that, you got to keep in mind, and where I think that the value for the Ravens during this time is going to be actually with their safeties, and specifically a guy like Marcus Williams, who can patrol the field out there and give more protection to some of these corners, because he's proven that he can cover more ground and give more help. And I think McDonald will scheme that as time comes. But you can't, if you're a Ravens fan, you got to be happy that they picked up a guy that has the ability and understands the game and has been in the NFL